Greetings, everybody. This is Serpentine451 here, and welcome to another episode of Weeb Warriors. Now, due to some personal issues, that being a technical personal issue, Jordan will not be joining me this week. So, I will be doing the episode reviews by myself this time around. So, let us begin with, let's begin with Gridman, since it was the show that I just finished up watching recently. Okay, so in episode 8, we're starting with the fact that now that everyone knows that Akane is the one creating the kaiju and that the city itself is isolated, they're going to make their best attempts to stop her from two different directions. Because she, at school, showed them the kaiju that they will be facing, and she will unleash it at a school festival that, according to Utsumi, said that the school haven't had in years, but due to students petitioning it to come back, they wanted to set up the festival. So Akane, like I said earlier, made a kaiju that's similar to a kaiju she made in the first episode, and pretty much made it a mechanized version of itself, kind of like Mechagodzilla. So with her plan in motion, she wants to disturb the peace and have a kaiju battle instead of the school festival. So the group decide to kind of implement their strategy. Rika tried to talk to Akane like a regular person, and Akane pretty much told her that everyone in the city was essentially made to love her, and that Rika personally was made to do so, that she could hate Akane. And that's why Rika feels so conflicted being her friend and all. And it was Utsumi that suggested, Utsumi and Yuta suggested that Gridman can actually alter his size and the size of the attachment companions to a smaller amount so they can actually fully combine into full-powered Gridman, which was used in this particular episode, episode 8. So with that, we had one of the most coolest things to ever be animated by Trigger, in my honest opinion. And it's kind of what I like about Tokusatsu as a whole. It's so, even though the stories are very simple and somewhat basic, the lengths that the heroes will go to defeat the enemies each week is very interesting, because the monsters themselves have very interesting gimmicks. So with that, Akane now is a bit defeated, and Alexis Kleb is now implementing his own machinations, since Yuta put him in, Yuta and Utsumi, it's either Yuta or Utsumi, said themselves that he looks like a final boss sort of villain, which, for all intents and purposes, that's what villains like Alexis would be in a typical Tokusatsu show. So anyway, I am looking forward to episode 9. I am very curious to see what their whole plan in motion will be, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Next up, let's go with That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. So, episode 8 in particular, we delve a little bit more into Shizu's past that lead to her pretty much passing away, and Rimu basically taking his human form after he assimilated her using his predator ability. And we learn that Shizu at one point in time taught children, was saved by the hero, and was later reformed by said hero to become the Conqueror of Flames and do something worthwhile and good in the world. She said that even though she was taken and transplanted in this world, she doesn't want to be absorbed by it. That's what she said to Rimuru when she ultimately died. And with that, she was able to reunite with her mother once more, and Rimuru gained his human form. Now, the three adventurers that was traveling with Shizu into the forest, they were saddened by her passing, and as a gift, Rimuru as a gift for actually staying with her, giving her the happiest memories they could, he gifted them with better armor and whatnot crafted by the dwarves. And with that, I found it very beautiful and fitting for the Rimuru to actually be that nice of a person, which he was ultimately. And his destined person brought him such comfort and joy, and Shizu felt, in a way, comforted. And Rimuru's mission now is to essentially live out her last wishes and find the demon lord that summoned her, that being Leon Cromwell. And then the episode technically ends with an orc, I would assume, being given a name by a masked individual. We'll find out more who this individual is in the next episode that just premiered today. So, with that, I will leave that for next week's episode of Weeb Warriors. But still, that time I got reincarnated as a slime is actually still going on pretty strong. It's, in my honest opinion, not the most entertaining isekai anime, but I enjoy it, and Jordan enjoys it as well. Next up, we have Goblin Slayer. Now, with Goblin Slayer in particular, this episode basically kind of gives a little bit more of a connection, like a little more into a look of our titular character again. It technically starts with him having a flashback of him training with his master, and his master basically telling him riddles, and these riddles were meant to save his life. The answer to the first riddle is nothing. The answer to the second riddle is death. And the third riddle, which never really had an answer, but the third riddle stuck out in my mind, is because this riddle was used in The Hobbit. This riddle being, what have I got in my pocket? Which I found very interesting. And so Goblin Slayer wakes up and he notices that he is in bed with the priestess being naked. And if Jordan was here, he would feel a bit disturbed, as was I in this situation. So, and then the Sword Maiden came to discuss things with him. And from what I've read in the manga so far, and from what people should really understand about the Sword Maiden personally, is that she has her reason for getting rid of the goblins. And she states it herself, she's afraid. She's not really pure anymore because, due to her backstory, she was one of the goblins' victims, but she didn't die. And the rest of the episode is with that after that nugget of information, the rest of the episode is essentially the priestess and Goblin Slayer enjoying some time together and buying some materials, running into the witch and the lance wielder from the town they're originally from. And what the witch brought him was flour. And while they were adventuring with the elf, the dwarf, and Scaly, they found an eyeball monster straight out of Dungeons and Dragons that could disintegrate things that move and could essentially use magic to dispel things that get in its way. So what Goblin Slayer did was told the dwarf to cast a stupor spell and told Scaly to send a Dragon Tooth warrior out in there after he threw the flour. Well, Goblin Slayer threw the powder that that being flower, out into where the creature was and told the elf to shoot an arrow and told the priestess to set up a barrier of protection. And with that, they were able to get the creature to try to blast the Dragontooth warrior and cause an explosion since powder was up in the air. And with the creature dead, they found a mirror. Now, this mirror in particular is very interesting because it will come into play later. And the explanation why so many goblins were there in the first place. And we also get to learn a little bit more. Well, hopefully in the next episode we learn more. Like, I'm at this point in the manga now where we learn of the reason how the swamp dragon or alligator came to be in the underground labyrinth that is Water City's, the Water Town's burial grounds. So I'm looking forward to episode 9. I really want to see what happens next, and I want to know, since we're getting so close to the end of this particular anime season, I want to see how these shows will end in particular. So, next up we have Zombieland Saga. Now, with this episode 8, we primarily focus on Lily, and or should I say Masao, because Lily is actually a trap. He was a child star because his father, Takeo, loved TV so much when he was alive. And when Masao died, and the way that he died was actually pretty funny. If everyone was wondering, like much like myself and Jordan, the reason why Lily's heart was outside of her chest was because essentially he died of mental shock because he had a whisker coming out of his chin. And that shock led to his death. Well, I should say her death now, because Lily pretty much identifies herself as a girl. So I shouldn't be offensive towards people who think that way. Because what Masao did for her father was essentially try to live up to try to make sure that there was love and devotion there. And the whole reason this whole backstory was brought into play was because Takeo caught a glimpse of the Drive-In Tory commercial and saw Lily around, and that reminded him, like, oh, that's my son back from the dead, and I want to make sure that is true. And this episode, even though it had its really funny moments, the relationship problems that Lily had with her father was really, really touching. And the song that she wrote and sang with Franshushu really brought those emotions home. And it revitalized the love for TV that Lily's father had. And it's all because Takeo really hated television after Lily died, because he essentially blamed himself for the death of his child. And any parent would feel so depressed losing their son or daughter to anything that they feel responsible for. And that kind of hit home for me. Because even though I'm not really a parent myself, I want to look out for my nephews. One that's already here and one that's on the way. And my 3-year-old nephew, he is pretty much like a son to me. And if I were to do something that would ultimately hurt him, that would devastate me. Plus, my sister would kick my ass. And plus, it was a very, much like the backstory episodes we got on Junko and I, we first had the moments of comedy, then we're having the moments of kind of minor tragedy, even though Masayo's death was very funny. Lily, Lily as a character is still going to be the same person that she is, because in her mind, growing up, it will just lead to career suicide. So since now she's a zombie, she can never age. And with that, I think I will end the review here for Zombieland Saga. Next week's episode is going to focus on Saki and probably how she died, following the trend of the episodes that we've been watching. Junko and I getting one at the same time, exploring their backstories and their beliefs. And we explored a little bit about the backstory of Lily here in this episode. But I still really enjoyed the series. It's funny, it's engaging, and I will watch it every single week. I look forward to it every week, much like I look forward to Goblin Slayer. And next up, let's have our last show, that being Rascals Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai Episode 8. We conclude the Futaba arc with this episode in particular. And essentially what happens is that we kind of explore why Futaba would feel like she's disjointed. She made an account that but didn't post anything, so her other self would post pictures of herself in this way because it was something to do. And when someone tried to pretty much try to get her to go home with them, she was scared and so told Sakata to put an end to the account. And what else happened here is Kimitani essentially helped Sakata try to get through to Futaba in a way that she could feel at peace and one with herself again. And essentially what happened is that the other Futaba, Sakata, and Kimitani actually just played with fireworks together. And that bonding moment led to her essentially finding some sort of peace. And Sakata trying to find the other Futaba that's staying in his house led to her, Futaba, when she finally came together, essentially, she was able to basically tell Kimitani her feelings for him. And he said, really? Well, essentially like, oh, wow, really? And she said, yeah, but I don't want you to say anything about it because I think I might cry. And this was all at the fireworks festival that they were going to. And with that, we have essentially the end of the Futaba arc. And a little bit of information here is that in the romantic life of Sakata and, well, due to the romantic, and now onto the romantic nature of, like, the romantic relationship between Mai and Sakata, they're not, well, their relationship kind of hits another snack where, since she's an actress, she's not really allowed to date people. So they have to keep the relationship essentially non-existent, which sucks for Sakata, but he understands in a way. So it's the nature of him trying to help these girls out with the adolescent syndrome in a way. So I cannot wait for the start of the next arc, and I want to see what happens next. Like always. That's essentially it for that review. And let's go to the Otaku Soapbox question. Well, it's not really a question, but more or less another topic like we tend to do with the Otaku Soapbox. Essentially, what I want to talk about is, well, the way I see it, people will like to cry wolf about a lot of things, and the otaku community, in the anime community as a whole. But the way I see it, I like to say that sure, people would shoot from the hip and start shit posting on a lot of things, but essentially what I would like to do here is this. If people have problems with other individuals within the community, we should show it like actual human beings. We may differ on a lot of things. We may read into things that aren't even there and try to find the hidden meaning in things that probably wouldn't have any deeper meaning to begin with. So the way and what I want to put out in the universe out there is that I enjoy anime because it's essentially an escape. Jordan and I have pretty much explained this in previous episodes on this show. And I'm the sort of person that doesn't like to cause conflict where it's not needed or not at all. And personally, I don't see any issue with some anime because these are works of fiction. And we, as a society, I like to think here in the West, specifically in America, we like to place blame on things, but not on other things but ourselves. And I find that very disturbing because there's no sense of accountability. This is how I feel about the world, like the outside world as a whole. Essentially, my point is be held accountable for your actions. I freely admit that I have done things wrong to people in the past, and I apologize. Some of them still hate me for the things I've said. And I'm at the point in my life where I just essentially don't care about other people's opinions anymore. So, when it pertains to anime now is there's people who have certain biases to a lot of things. And like the shows that they watch, find other genres boring, which is within their rights and means, but they shouldn't seek out things to hate. That's what I'm trying to get across here. Don't review a show that you're not going to like to begin with. Don't review a game like a visual novel or an RPG that was made in Japan just to hate on it. If you're a critic and you're looking at things from a very technical standpoint, then yeah, some games are made fantastically, some are not. I can understand that. But you shouldn't peg everything on an object and think that people are too damn, well, who am I kidding? People can be too damn stupid to take care of things for themselves and think that it's okay to get away with things because there are no consequences for their actions. Call me a bit old-fashioned, but that's essentially how I feel in the grand scheme of things. Sorry for this topic being a bit too serious for everyone's good here. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm a great human being. That's not my intention. My intention is to basically tell people that this is all fiction. And much like how Jordan and I feel about a lot of shows, we're going to be honest with our opinions. And I want people to be honest with them. We don't have to agree, but I want you guys to essentially be smart about what you say. Choose your words carefully, and I look forward to maybe someday having a lot of interesting discussions with all of y'all if we have more people viewing this show. Like I said, first off, check out Quentin's channel. Like always, as our usual plug for the end of Weeb Warriors, and also check out my Instagram at Serpentine451. I also have my Twitter account where you can follow me, that being at @abramy, that being a capital A. Thank you very much. And also you can see hopefully you can see what I'm up to on my Instagram and Twitter, since I don't really post things on my Twitter all that often, but you can follow me on my Twitter. Links to all my social media accounts are in my description below. And I hope to find you guys here again next week. Hopefully Jordan can join me again. Also, since it was announced quite a while back, I'm not sure when exactly it is, Mr. J will be joining me in a special review of Agretzko Season 2. I hope you look forward to that as well. And let me know in the comments below when that particular show will come back on Netflix. Before I even know about it anyway. Catch you next time, guys.